Got a pile of old CDs just sitting around? Well, instead of tossing them, let's turn them into cute, upcycled mini artworks to get your creative juices spinning. So the first step is we're gonna take a CD like this and we're gonna transform it into a CD like this, nice and clear. And also don't worry, I'm not gonna ruin the Oasis CD, that's a classic. So this is the CD I'm going to be working with, and all I'm gonna need to transform it is some packing tape and a scissor. So the first step is you're just going to take the scissor, the blade of the scissor, and create a little bit of a slit across just one part of the CD just to get it going. And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna take a piece of packing tape and you're gonna cut a small piece, and then you're going to place it down right over that cut. And now this is the fun part. You're gonna pretend like you're waxing. So if you've ever waxed hair on like your legs or arms or whatever, you're gonna basically pull away from that slit that you made. So I'm gonna take that piece here and then just pull it off. And it comes off super easy. So if your piece is not sticky enough, then you just grab another one and just keep on going. Oh, that came off. So you can try like different methods there, but eventually it all comes off. There we go. And you got a clear CD to paint on. I also want to quickly mention that you actually don't need to remove the labels from your CDs to paint on them. And I'm going to show you a method later on in this video where I'm going to be painting directly over top of the label, and that works beautifully as well. All right, now for the idea portion of the video, I'm first going to show you a few ideas of what to paint on clear CDs. So the first thing we're going to do is I have a small round brush, and I'm just going to pick up some dark blue paint. Then I'm just gonna start right about there, and then we're going to make the wave go around the center part of the CD, which is gonna give a really cool look at the end. And then we're just gonna create these water lines with that same dark blue paint. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna pick up some turquoise paint and we're just gonna fill it in. Okay, now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pick up some white paint and I'm gonna let all the colors kind of play on this CD. Because when you see ocean water, it's not just one color, there's multiple shades of that blue. All right, now the wave is nice and dry, so I'm gonna grab a Q-tip and I'm gonna show you the really fun technique to finish off this wave. So I'm gonna grab a little bit of white on my Q-tip and we're gonna be adding the ocean spray on top of this wave. I just wanna mimic that with these little Q-tip dabs. And then we can add a little bit of that spray inside the wave too, because there's some of that's happening on the inside part of the wave. And then we can add a few smaller dots a little bit further away from the wave. So that's our ocean wave, and it's really that simple to make. All right, the next idea you can paint on a clear CD, I want to show you a really nifty technique you can do. So this is a printout of a butterfly that I found on Canva. And I'm gonna leave a link in the description below if you want this exact design. But what you can do with a clear CD is literally use it as a stencil without having to transfer it, which is like super easy. So all you're gonna do is put your CD right on top of that stencil, and then you can just paint right over top. So I just have some simple black paint here, and I'm just gonna be tracing the outline of my butterfly. Okay, I've done the outline of the butterfly, and I just want to show you how easy it is to do your outline using the stencil below. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill in the butterfly with a nice beautiful orange paint. And now I'm ready to move on to the detail parts of this butterfly. So I'm just going to grab a little bit of white paint and we're going to add some dots on the edges of the wing, just like that. And actually I'm going to flip over my brush. And I'm gonna use the back of my brush because sometimes I feel like that gives a little bit more controlled dots. Sometimes with the brush it becomes a little bit of a challenge, so I'm just using the back side of my brush to create those dots. All right, so I'm done my butterfly CD, but I just wanted to show you two different options of what you can do with the top portion of your CD. So for this one, I found this really beautiful quote online, "Fly, first love yourself," and I thought that was so beautiful and simple. And the other idea is I painted just simple white clouds at the top of the CD using a Q-tip, and I just kind of dabbed them on All right, for the next clear CD painting idea, I'm gonna show you how to paint really super easy abstract flowers. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna start with the center of the flower. So I'm just gonna put that right about here. It's just basically a dot. And then we're gonna pick up more of that paint, and then we're gonna make these kind of loose and squiggly petals. And then for the next petal, we're gonna use the outline of the first one to kind of fill around it, just like that. And then we're gonna do that all the way around that center circle we created. And then at the end, you're gonna see it turns out to a really cool design. So basically that's our first flower right there. And now I'm gonna create the second one, and I'm gonna pick up a different color here. So I'm gonna pick up pink, and I'm gonna create the center point, just like that. I'm gonna fill in those gaps. The reason why I love this design is because the clear CD fills in the blanks between the flowers, and it gives a really cool look. All right, so I'm done the second layer for these Matisse flowers, and you can see how the color just kind of comes to life with that second coat, and it's much more opaque. And this design was super easy and actually very relaxing to make. All right, so now I'm going to show you how to paint on a CD without removing the label. So I'm just gonna pick up some black paint on my brush, and I'm just gonna paint the whole CD in, and that gives us a nice blank canvas to start with. So I'm actually gonna go ahead and paint even that clear plastic part to show you can paint on the whole surface. And I think I'm just gonna need one coat for this base coat. All right, so the background is dry to the touch, and what I have here is I gathered some round objects around my house because we're gonna be using them for stencils for the bubbles. So I'm gonna start with my biggest one, and I'm just gonna paint some white around the ridge. So I'm just gonna stamp it down. We're gonna just repeat that and keep on adding our bubbles wherever you want. All right, now we're gonna add the details to our bubbles to make them look nice and rounded, and we're gonna add a little bit of color as well. So I have my thinnest detailing brush, and I'm just gonna dip it in some pink paint. And then we're gonna create really thin lines at the sides of our bubbles, like that. And then we're just gonna repeat that on all of the bubbles. And then we're gonna pick up some turquoise paint. So with the turquoise paint, I'm just going to go right close to that pink line we made and add another one. But this one's gonna be a little bit shorter and smaller. And then we're gonna do that on all of the bubbles. Okay, so I'm gonna add in another color to our bubble, and that's gonna be yellow. So I've cleaned off my brush, and I'm gonna add that yellow right next to the turquoise and make it even smaller. And you can add it, you don't have to add it right in the center. You can add it at the end of the curve as well, like that, to give it a little bit more variety. Okay, now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna dip the back of my brush in some white paint, and we're gonna add small little dots inside of our bubble, maybe 2 or 3 to each bubble. Oopsies, I actually forgot one last detail for the bubbles. So I'm gonna pick up some white paint, and we're gonna add a final layer of white on the inside, and this line's gonna be a little bit thicker, and that's gonna give our bubble the final illusion that it's nice and rounded. So I have a CD here that's already white, but if you have a CD, for example, that has a label on it, you can go ahead and base coat it with some white paint. And then once you have the white paint on your CD, you're just gonna grab 2 different types of green, a dark green and a light green, and your smallest detailing brush, and we're gonna create these stems. So I'm just gonna swap between the dark and the light green and make a variety of different like stem colors and also different lengths and sizes. Now for the lavender flowers, I'm gonna grab the back of a paintbrush and some dark purple paint, and I'm just gonna paint in the basic shape of lavender, which is a fairly small flower, so we don't wanna add too much here. We just wanna give it a nice base coat of our flower. I always get lavender wrong. I'm trying to focus on making the lavender flower look a little bit more authentic in this painting. Okay, now we're gonna pick up some lavender color, and we're gonna add in some dots over top of that dried purple color. But we do not want to cover all that dark purple below, because that's what's gonna give us a nice, beautiful dimension to our flowers. All right, now our lavenders are coming together really nicely. And as another detail, I like to go in with some white paint. So the same thing at the back of my paintbrush, I've got some white paint, and I'm gonna add the dots much more sparingly here on my flowers. I just want some simple highlights. And if you're pumped to paint on things like CDs or other things that are non-canvas, you want to check out my terracotta flower pot painting tutorial. That video has super easy painting ideas just like this one.